What happens when a woman, dressed in simple clothes, walks into a luxury car dealership and gets kicked out? The next day, everything changes when her billionaire husband's Rolls Royce pulls up. This isn't just a story about cars. It's about respect, courage, and shattering stereotypes. Ready to see how one moment can turn an entire world upside down? Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel as a sign of support. It was a warm Friday afternoon in Houston, Texas, and Emma Dawson had just finished helping at the local soup kitchen. Still wearing her worn sneakers, faded jeans, and a simple gray tee, she decided to stop by Crawford Elite Motors, a luxury dealership she'd passed a dozen times but never entered. The glass doors parted with a swoosh as she stepped in. Inside, the dealership gleamed with spotless floors and glittering cars under soft lights. Rolls Royces, Bentleys, and McLarens sat like showroom royalty, polished to perfection. Emma wandered quietly, her eyes lingering on a black Rolls Royce Phantom parked on a rotating platform. She didn't say much, just admired the craftsmanship. Her fingers traced the curve of the fender, the hand-stitched interior catching her eye. From behind the front desk, a sharply dressed salesman named Blake Thompson narrowed his eyes. He nudged his coworker, chuckling. "Looks like someone took a wrong turn into the wrong tax bracket." His colleague raised an eyebrow. "Be careful, man." But Blake was already walking toward her, flashing a customer service smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hi there, miss. Can I help you find the used section? That's actually a separate lot." Emma glanced at him, surprised by the tone. "I'm interested in this one," she said, pointing at the Phantom. Blake scoffed, barely hiding his smirk. "Of course you are. It's $500,000, give or take. Most of our clients don't just browse." His voice dropped slightly. "Especially dressed like that." Emma's cheeks reddened, but her voice stayed calm. "I wasn't planning on touching anything I couldn't afford." "Well, that's the thing, ma'am. These cars aren't for photo ops or curiosity. We like to keep them in pristine condition for serious buyers." Emma held his gaze for a moment, then stepped away from the vehicle. "I see. Thanks for your time." As she turned to leave, Blake couldn't help but call after her with a condescending chuckle. "Maybe check out Midtown Motors. They've got some great pre-owned options." Emma didn't reply. She walked out the glass doors with her head held high, climbed into her dusty old Honda Civic, and drove away in silence. But inside, a quiet storm had begun to brew. Because what Blake didn't know, what no one at Crawford Elite Motors knew, was that Emma Dawson wasn't just some woman in worn jeans. She was married to Carter Dawson. And Carter Dawson didn't just buy Rolls Royces. He owned the oil companies that supplied the fuel for nearly every car on the lot. The Dawson estate sat on the outskirts of Houston, nestled behind a wrought iron gate and a long stretch of manicured driveway. Despite its grandeur, 10 acres, a pool the size of a motel, and a 5-car garage, Emma and Carter kept things quiet. Lavish, yes, but not loud. Emma parked her old Civic next to a gleaming black Escalade in the driveway and let herself into the house. Their golden retriever, Jasper, trotted over to greet her with a wagging tail. She patted his head and made her way into the kitchen. Carter was already there, still in his golf polo, sipping iced tea while scanning something on his tablet. The man had a commanding presence, tall, silver-haired, and fit for someone in his late 50s. He glanced up the second she walked in. "Hey, Em, you look tired. Everything okay?" he asked, setting the tablet down. Emma shrugged as she grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. "Yeah, just ran into something weird at that car dealership near downtown. Crawford Elite Motors." Carter raised a brow. "Didn't realize you were car shopping." She smiled faintly. "I wasn't, not seriously. I just stopped in to look at a Rolls. Thought I'd surprise you with a test drive, but one of the salesmen practically kicked me out." "What?" Carter leaned forward. "What do you mean, kicked you out?" Emma recounted the entire encounter, Blake's smirk, the snide comments, and the insult on her way out. She tried to tell it lightly, but Carter's jaw tightened with every word. "Let me guess," he muttered. "Didn't like the jeans and sneakers." Emma shrugged. "I get it. I don't look like their usual clientele." Carter stood up, crossing the room. "No, You look like my wife, and that's all that should matter." "It's not a big deal," she said gently. "People judge. I'm used to it." Carter wasn't buying it. "That guy made you feel small. You went in there thinking about a gift for me, and he treated you like you didn't belong." He paused. "You belong anywhere you want to be, Em." She smiled, touched. "Thanks, but I really wasn't expecting anything. I just thought the car looked nice." Carter's expression changed. A spark of something, mischief maybe, lit up his eyes. "Well then, let's go buy it." Emma blinked. "Now?" "No," Carter said, walking to the foyer and grabbing his phone. "Tomorrow, but not in your Civic," she laughed. "Oh no, what are you planning?" "Just a little reintroduction," he said, tapping out a message to his driver. "Let's remind them that the woman in sneakers might be the only person who can actually buy the car they're guarding like it's Fort Knox." Emma shook her head, still smiling. "You're impossible." "Maybe, but I'm also married to a woman worth more than any showroom, and it's time they found that out." Saturday morning rolled in with sunlight streaking through the tall windows of the Dawson estate. By 10 a.m., a glimmering white Rolls Royce Cullinan was waiting at the front entrance, humming softly as the driver kept the engine running. Carter adjusted the cuffs of his crisp navy suit, the silver cufflinks catching the light as he turned to Emma. "Ready?" Emma, still in her comfortable jeans and that same gray t-shirt from the day before, gave him a look. "You sure you don't want me to dress up?" Carter grinned. "Nope. That outfit is perfect." With a chuckle, Emma followed him into the Rolls, where their chauffeur, Marcus, greeted them with a respectful nod. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson." "Morning, Marcus. Let's take a drive downtown," Carter replied. As they pulled into the parking lot of Crawford Elite Motors, heads began to turn. Customers and staff alike peeked through the dealership's glass walls, trying to get a look at who was arriving in the $400,000 SUV. Blake was standing near the showroom entrance, chatting with a young couple about a Bentley convertible. When he saw the Rolls Royce Cullinan glide up, he nearly dropped his tablet. Carter stepped out first, tall and composed, commanding attention with his polished demeanor. Emma exited next, still casual, still quiet, but something about her presence made people pause. Blake straightened his jacket and rushed over, flashing his most professional smile. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Crawford Elite Motors. Can I assist you today?" Carter didn't respond right away. He turned to Emma. "Sweetheart, you mentioned a car yesterday?" Emma pointed casually to the black Phantom that was still on display inside. "That's the one." Blake's face changed. He looked from Emma to Carter and then back again, confusion quickly morphing into panic. "Oh, of course, yes, a beautiful choice. We'd be honored to..." Carter raised a hand. "No need for the pitch. We'll be buying it. Today." Blake blinked. "Absolutely, sir. Shall I arrange the paperwork under your name?" Emma stepped forward. "Number, it'll be in mine." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Carter gave Blake a cold look. "My wife came in here yesterday, alone, looking just like she does now. You mocked her, insulted her, treated her like she didn't matter." I didn't know," Blake stammered. "And that's exactly the point," Carter cut in. "You shouldn't need to know someone's bank account to treat them like a human being." Blake's smile faltered completely. Emma, ever calm, simply added, "I wasn't expecting special treatment, just respect." Behind them, a few other staff members watched nervously, whispering to each other. It wasn't every day a billionaire walked in to defend his wife and call out their employee in front of the entire showroom. Carter placed a hand gently on Emma's shoulder. "We'll take the Phantom, add the Platinum Custom package, and I want it delivered to our home by tomorrow morning." Blake nodded stiffly, cheeks burning. "Yes, sir, of course." As Carter and Emma walked inside, now treated like royalty, the staff scrambled to make everything perfect. But the real lesson had already been delivered. The atmosphere inside Crawford Elite Motors had shifted completely. Where moments before Emma had been met with cold indifference, now she and Carter were the center of attention. Sales staff gathered discreetly in corners, whispering and stealing glances, while managers hurriedly arranged paperwork and polished the showroom floor. Blake Thompson, the salesman who had dismissed Emma the day before, stood awkwardly near the entrance, His confident smile was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped grimace as Carter approached. "Blake," Carter said, voice low but firm. "We need to talk." Blake swallowed hard and nodded. "Of course, Mr. Dawson." They stepped aside toward the offices. Carter didn't bother with pleasantries. "Yesterday, you treated my wife like she was a charity case, someone who didn't belong here," Carter began. "Do you realize how wrong that was?" Blake fidgeted nervously. "Sir, I didn't know who she was. I thought—" "That's exactly the problem," Carter interrupted. "You assumed based on how she looked. That's not just rude, it's unprofessional." Blake hung his head. "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." Carter's gaze softened just a little. "Good, because this dealership should be about respect, not judgment." Meanwhile, Emma was touring the showroom with a senior sales consultant, getting details about the Phantom's features. Her casual demeanor had everyone guessing whether she was the buyer or just along for the ride. Back in the office, Carter called the dealership manager, Lucas Graham, into the conversation. "Lucas, I want Blake to receive some training on customer relations, and if he can't learn to treat every customer with respect, he should reconsider working here." Lucas nodded, already looking troubled. "Understood, Mr. Dawson." Word of the incident had started spreading among the employees, and some customers were beginning to take notice as well. Carter and Emma were no longer just visitors. They were a statement. After finalizing the paperwork, Carter turned to Emma with a smile. "Looks like your test drive turned into a purchase." Emma laughed softly. "I guess it did. Let's get this beauty home," Carter said, gesturing toward the gleaming black Phantom, now officially theirs. As the delivery arrangements were confirmed, Blake watched from a distance, the sting of humiliation settling in. His arrogance had cost him the respect of the Dawsons, and soon perhaps his job. But more importantly, the dealership had learned a hard lesson. True luxury is about treating people with dignity, regardless of what they're wearing or how they look. 2 days later, the black Rolls Royce Phantom gleamed in the driveway of the Dawson estate, its new owner proud and unassuming as ever, Emma Dawson. She had insisted on personally inspecting every detail of the car before it was officially put to use. After all, it wasn't just a luxury vehicle. It was a symbol, a quiet declaration that appearances shouldn't dictate how someone is treated. That afternoon, as Emma stood admiring the hand-stitched leather interior, the doorbell rang. She wiped her hands on her jeans and headed to the front door. Standing there was an older woman in a smart business suit, clutching a leather portfolio. She introduced herself as Margaret Ellis, the CEO of Crawford Elite Motors. "I wanted to personally apologize for how you were treated when you visited our dealership," Margaret said, her voice calm but sincere. "That behavior does not represent our values, and I am taking steps to ensure it never happens again." Emma smiled warmly. "Thank you, Mrs. Ellis. I appreciate that." Margaret nodded and looked down at the portfolio in her hands. "There's something else. Mr. Dawson called me yesterday. He made it clear that respect is not optional in our business." Emma chuckled. "I think Carter makes that pretty clear." Margaret smiled, then turned serious. "We want to offer you and Mr. Dawson a VIP membership to our exclusive client program. It includes early access to new models, private events, and personalized service." Emma glanced at the driveway, where the Rolls sat proudly. "That's very generous, but I'm just a simple woman." Margaret shook her head. "You are more than that. You represent the kind of integrity and humility that we want to see more of in our clientele and in our staff. I hope you'll accept." Emma felt a warmth she hadn't expected. "We will. Thank you." Before leaving, Margaret paused. "If you don't mind, I'd love to hear more about the charitable work you do. It's inspiring." Emma's eyes sparkled. "I'd be happy to share." As Margaret walked away, Emma closed the door and took a deep breath. The entire ordeal had turned into something far bigger than a car purchase. It was about respect, about kindness, and about breaking down walls, one moment at a time. Meanwhile, Carter, who had been watching from the study window, smiled quietly to himself. The woman he married was stronger than anyone could imagine, and together they were going to change more than just their own world. The news of the incident at Crawford Elite Motors didn't stay quiet for long. Within days, local business journals picked up the story. Billionaire defends wife after luxury dealership snub. Headlines splash Carter and Emma Dawson's names across social media and news feeds, sparking a lively debate about class, judgment, and respect. Inside the Dawson household, Emma was both amused and slightly overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Carter, ever the strategist, saw it as an opportunity. "Emma," he said one morning over breakfast, "people are talking. You could speak about this, about the importance of kindness, about how appearances deceive. You have a platform now." Emma took a sip of her coffee, thoughtful. "I never wanted the spotlight, Carter. I just want people to be treated fairly." "That's exactly why you should do it. Not for fame, but for change." Reluctantly, Emma agreed. Carter arranged for her to appear on a popular Houston morning show where she spoke candidly about the experience and the broader issues of judgment and empathy. Her words were simple but powerful. "I walked into that dealership as myself. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to look at a car I liked. But I was treated like I didn't belong because of how I looked. That hurt, not because of the car, but because of the disrespect. Everyone deserves to be seen as a person first." The interview went viral, resonating with people from all walks of life. Comments poured in, stories of similar experiences, gratitude for Emma's honesty, and support for changing attitudes toward customers, no matter their appearance. Back at Crawford Elite Motors, the management took swift action. New training programs on customer service and inclusivity were introduced, with Carter's influence playing a key role. Emma also began collaborating with local nonprofits to support women who had faced discrimination or hardship, using her new platform to amplify their stories and provide resources. One afternoon, as Emma was leaving a community center after a volunteer event, a woman approached her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," the woman said quietly. "You made me feel seen today." Emma smiled, the warmth in her heart growing. It wasn't about the Rolls Royce or the billionaire husband anymore. It was about connection. Carter watched Emma with pride. Her grace and strength had turned an ugly experience into a movement, proof that sometimes the simplest acts of kindness could start revolutions. The Dawson estate was buzzing with a quiet energy that afternoon as friends and family gathered for a small celebration. Emma had just returned from a community event where she had spoken about empathy and dignity, and the impact of that simple lesson was already rippling through the city. Carter poured 2 glasses of sparkling cider as Emma entered the room. "To you," he said, handing her a glass, "for turning a bad day into a catalyst for change." Emma smiled, the weight of the past week finally settling into something hopeful. "I never thought a simple trip to look at a car would change so much." Carter nodded. "It's never just about the car. It's about the people. And you reminded everyone of that." Their guests applauded gently, raising their glasses in a toast. Among them were members of local charities, business leaders, and neighbors, people whose lives Emma and Carter had touched in unexpected ways. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, Emma stood by the window watching the sun set over their sprawling lawn. The Rolls Royce Phantom gleamed under the porch light, a symbol not just of wealth, but of dignity reclaimed. Carter joined her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "Ready for the next adventure?" Emma leaned into him. "With you? Always." In that moment, the couple knew their journey was far from over. The story that began with a cold dismissal had grown into a movement, one that celebrated respect, kindness, and the power of standing up for what's right. And as they looked ahead, they were certain of one thing. True luxury wasn't measured by cars or money. It was measured by the way you treated others and the courage to demand better. Together, Emma and Carter Dawson were ready to lead that change. Emma's experience at the car dealership reminds us all that true respect isn't about appearances or status. It's about recognizing the dignity in every person. Sometimes standing up with kindness and courage can inspire change far beyond our expectations. The Dawson story shows how empathy and integrity can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Let this story be a reminder to treat everyone you meet with respect, regardless of how they look or what they own. Next time you encounter someone who might be overlooked or judged, choose kindness. It's a small act that can create a ripple effect of positive change. And if you've ever faced unfair treatment, remember Emma's strength. Your voice matters. Speak up, stand tall, and help build a world where everyone feels valued.